Hey cloud adventurers, ever felt like a circus juggler managing multiple AWS accounts? Logging out of one, logging into another, because you cannot access more than one AWS account using the same browser session? Well, today, AWS gives us 5 flaming torches to juggle, all at the same time, and all in the same browser session. Welcome to AWS multi-session support. So here's the thing. Your team follows AWS best practices, typically to isolate dev, test, prod, and more in separate AWS accounts. But constantly logging out of one account so that you can log into another account or as a different identity? AWS said enough and dropped the multi-session support on January 16, 2025. Now you can run up to 5 sessions simultaneously in one browser window. This means you can have your accounts accessible as separate tabs in the same browser session. Okay, so let's see how we enable multi-session support. Okay, so here we are on a web browser. I'm using Chrome and I'm going to log into one of my accounts. So let's see how this works. I'm going to log into an account as a root user. Put in the password, and I'll need to put in an MFA code. I hope you have enabled MFA on all of your AWS accounts, which is one of AWS best practices. So here we go. It needs a code. And that's me logging in to one of my accounts. This happens to be a management account, by the way, of an AWS organization. So there we are, I'm in the management account. Now let's assume that I'm working in the IAM management console. And I'm setting up some permissions for a particular user. Let's assume that that user is Alice. So I've given Alice some permissions, and Alice is basically a systems account, and I want to quickly test out those permissions. So perhaps what I might do is I might try to log in as Alice and see whether those permissions worked. So I can grab the console sign-in link there to log in as an IAM user and navigate to another tab and try and attempt to log in as Alice. Now, that's not a problem really. I can put in Alice's username and her password, and bingo, I'm logged in as Alice. So it's Alice at this account. And so what I can do is I can test out those permissions, and then once I'm satisfied that Alice's set of permissions now work, I can go back to my account where I was logged in as a root user. Oops, I've actually been signed out. Okay, so because it's in the same browser session and I've gone and logged in as a different identity, albeit for the same account, I've been signed out as the root user where I was logged in before. Now I've got to sign in again. Okay, so I've got to go in, sign in as, so I'm going to have to sign out as Alice and then sign in again. And this time I would log in as the root user again for the vacant studio of the management account, right? So I can click sign in again and I go and do the same thing again where I click on the root user, type in the root user's email address, there we are, and put in the password, and then, let's not forget the MFA code. So the MFA code this time happens to be that, and now I'm logged in back as the root user in the management account of the vacant studio. And obviously that means that the system has signed me out as the user Alice. So you can see this is really getting a bit annoying. Okay, now to circumvent this, okay, or to come up with a workaround, what I could do is I could go back to IAM and go into users and just quickly grab that IAM sign in link. Okay, and I could actually sign in using an incognito window. Okay, so I can go into an incognito window and then sign in as Alice. So now I can do this and I can put in her password and I'm now signed in as Alice. Okay, so I've got one browser window that is logged in as the root user, which works, and the other browser window which is logged in as Alice, which is an incognito. So I can do that. But let's say I want to log into a third account or a different identity. Well, I've already used one Chrome normal session, which is that one over there, and one incognito window. What do I do next? So next I might have to open a completely new browser. So I happen to be running on a Mac, so maybe I can use Safari. Hopefully you begin to realize that this is just really irritating. Let's take a look at how multi-session support works. Okay, so here we are back again at my AWS Management Console. This is the management account for the Vagrant Studio, which has multiple accounts as part of an AWS organization. Now, if you want to learn a little bit more about AWS organizations and how you can manage multiple AWS accounts for your business, check out this video over here. The link in the description box below also will give you a direct link to that video. Anyway, let's take a look at how to enable this multi-session support. So all you need to do is you need to go to your account name, click the drop-down box and click turn on multi-session support. You're going to get a warning message over here saying that enabling this multi-session support will change the console URL for this browser by adding subdomains, and that's perfectly fine. So what we need to do next is we'll click turn on multi-session support. It's going to relog you back into that account with this new URL. Okay, so now multi-session support has been enabled. You can now sign into other accounts and roles in the same browser session. So just to see where we are again, we are still in the management account as the root user. Okay, so that's my management account as the root user. And so if I now want to log back in as Alice in a separate session, all I need to do is click add session, which will open up another browser tab. And just want to make sure we get the account ID across. So we're just going to copy the account ID and paste that in there. And then I'm going to log in as Alice. So there's Alice's username and her password. And we'll log in as Alice this time in this browser tab. So in fact, you can see that I'm logged in now as Alice in the management account for the Vagrant Studio. Okay, I can go into EC2. And then in my previous tab, I'm still logged in as the root user of the management account, and I can maybe go into something like IAM there. Okay, so now I'm in IAM. So I can flip between the two. In one tab, I'm in as Alice, and in the previous tab, I'm in as root. This is fantastic, right? None of that incognito window or separate browser software, having to manage all of that flipping and changing and stuff, or logging out and logging in, none of that stuff. Let's take this one step further. Let me log into a completely different account. So I'll click add session, bring that on this side, and I'm going to click sign in as a root user. And this time I'm going to log into a different account. So that's the account, development at the Richer Roast. And I'll put in the password for that. And this account requires an MFA. So let's just quickly grab that MFA code, which is, there it is. And so we're logging on to another account called the Richer Roast development account. And there it is. I'm logged in as a root user for the Richer Roast development account, and maybe I'm working on Athena in that account. So I'm now able to navigate across 3 separate accounts, or one account, 2 separate identities, and a secondary account for a different project, all in the same browser session, all just by flipping through the tabs. This is fantastic. I'll show you a couple of other things. If we drop down this, you'll see my 2 other active sessions. So we can just flip between the sessions. Okay, so if you've got all those sessions open, you can actually flip between them. Okay, so that's brilliant. And you can actually choose to log out of a particular session. So if you look at this drop down over here, we can sign out of the current session. So the current session is the Richer Roast development account. I can click sign out of current session. That will sign me out, and it will say you've signed out of the development session. Brilliant. This is absolutely brilliant. And it takes away all of that switching and logging out and logging back in headache that systems administrators often have to cope with. Okay, so this is absolutely a godsend. And I hope you systems administrators out there, cloud engineers, cloud practitioners, solutions architect, are going to find this feature really, really useful. So no more weird hacks with incognito windows or container plugins. Each session has its own tab and URL, so no identity leakage, and you can have up to 5 concurrent sessions. If you try a 6th one, AWS simply prompts you with which session do you want to drop. Okay, so you'll need to drop one in order to log into a 6th session. Basically, you can have up to 5 sessions. Okay, so some quick heads up and tips. Reality check, it's per browser. You can use Chrome for multi-session and save personal bookmarks in another browser for easy separation. Also note that the URL changes, as you saw earlier. So the URL looks something like this. Make sure to update your bookmarks or they'll break. And as a security alert, you want to be careful about accidentally running say, production code in a dev tab. So make sure you label your tabs or color code them. Okay, so that's a few caveats and things to be aware of when using multi-session support. All right, folks, AWS multi-session support is live. No more window hopping, no more multiple browsers to manage, no more drama. Up to 5 sessions in one browser. All you need to do is opt in, bookmark wisely, and tab label like a boss. Smash that like button if this feature makes your life easier. Drop a comment with your tab organization hacks, and don't forget to subscribe for more cloud wizardry.